a lot of metals are criticals today, probably most of them, but tantalum is probably one of the most critical ones, and a metal that is unique. You don't want to invest in another story that you already have in your portfolio. Tantalum is probably unique in that sense, and we're probably one of the companies that will provide the most exposure to tantalum in the future.
Hello, you're welcome. Proactive. Joining me is Switch Metals CEO Karl Akueson. Karl, very good to meet you. Congratulations on this morning's listing on AIM. Before we get into that, tell us more about Switch Metals and the transaction that got you here.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. And the background to the transaction is effectively the acquisition by a company which was called Oneiro Energy that we've reversed into. The Switch Metals is a private company that I founded a few years ago from my base here in Côte d'Ivoire. And it's a company focused on tantalum in Côte d'Ivoire. Tantalum is a very strategic technology metal, a very unique and rare technology metal, one we have in our pockets. Like I like to say, it's in our mobile phones, laptops, plasma TV, everything we use daily. And it's a metal that's here for the future. And that's what we're going to focus on from this country that is probably one of the best jurisdictions in Africa and probably one of the best globally.
So, Karl, why did you decide to list on AIM?
Yeah, there are a few reasons for that. I mean, I have a personal background and a personal link with the UK. I mean, I studied and graduated from the UK, both in chemical engineering and finance. I worked as an investment banker in the mining space in London for a few years before I moved back to Côte d'Ivoire, which is my home country. So that's a personal part of it. In addition to that, of course, there's a direct relationship in terms of time zones. Flights to get to the UK. I'm living in Côte d'Ivoire. It's easier to actually have that link, and also the UK has historically understood Africa and production. Production is definitely one of our focus in the near term, and production of a strategic and a niche metal like tantalum. There are a few tin stories in the UK, and we felt that these are probably our best peers in the future, and being close to them is probably the right place for us to be and start this story.
How close are you to production, Karl? I see that the emphasis is really on your Issia project.
Yes, I mean, Isia is a very unique project in the sense that it's one that has some historic small production. It has some occurrences of tantalum at surface in the form of coltan. It's an area of the country where we can actually start production very early, because we have two things here, which is very particular. We have the advantage of having a very shallow, free-dig, shovel-ready part of the deposit that is effectively sitting above and in the upper part of the pegmatites, which are the hard rock source. So we have both made the discoveries of the pegmatites. That's for the long term. But initially, we have something at surface that we could start scratching and producing from, which allows us to actually have a very accelerated time to production. We envisage to achieve that within the next few years, ideally, in the next 2 years. That's really what we're aiming for, and that's why we're going to rush into getting the work done in the next few months.
So you raised £2 million through the fundraise, Karl. How do you plan to use that to get Issia to production?
Exactly, I'm delivering on this strategy I just mentioned. I mean, we're full steam ahead on delivering production, which means we need to start with the resource definition, and that's the first step. So resource definition will be kicked off, and it's already kicked off. We'll give it a big push in the next few months, and that's basically going to be all our resource allocated to achieving a first resource at Issia, which would allow us to have a resource that we will then put some economic parameters on top of. We understand that the market may not understand tantalum today in terms of how it's valued, and for this reason, back to back, we'll actually have the resource and then try to put some economic parameters so people understand the value of what we've done, which would then allow us to think about scale. And we have a very large package. We cover a whole district, so we have scale, but we want to de-risk the exploration part and have the resource as quickly as possible.
Karl, you said the market may not understand tantalum. Tell us a little bit about it, its uses, and the supply-demand dynamics.
I personally fell in love with that metal as soon as I looked at it. My personal background was actually, historically, my first company called Ivoire Resources was in the gold space. And as soon as I came across it metal and started educating myself, and I realized how useful it is. And it's a metal, in the easiest way to look at it is it's a metal we have and we touch daily in your mobile phone, in your laptop, TV, and in your cars, as I said. And more importantly, it's a metal that is critical because it can't be found in many places. It's very critical geographically, hard to find, but also geologically. And 60% of it currently comes from DRC and Rwanda, which again is a part of the world where people would keep sourcing from, but having an alternative to that is definitely something that the buyers want. And we've already had some conversations, and they're definitely desperate for alternatives. And Côte d'Ivoire is definitely one place where they would be very happy to source from.
Karl, I think you've probably touched on it, but give us the investment case for Switch Metals.
In a few words, the country, you want to invest in a country that is stable, a country that is growing, in a metal that's there for the future. A lot of metals are critical today, probably most of them, but tantalum is probably one of the most critical ones, and a metal that is unique. You don't want to invest in another story that you already have in your portfolio. Tantalum is probably unique in that sense, and we're probably one of the companies that will provide the most exposure to tantalum in the future. So. And we have the right management team to achieve that, the right board, and a good list of supportive shareholders. And I'm sure a few people would like to join the journey.
I hope you'll keep us updated on the progress on that journey, Karl. Congratulations again on today's listing.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks.
Karl Akueson, the CEO of Switch Metals.